So I've got this Yamaha guitar. It's in pretty good condition. I always actually wanted one of these. It just needs sort of tidy up and new set of strings and stuff like that. But the big problem is there's a nut that's snapped off. It should be like that one there. It's not any great problem when you're playing a guitar because the string tension pushes it down and there's enough of the bolt left on there that it doesn't move. But I want to try to fix it. So what I've done so far is taken the strings off, and I've pulled the strings off the floating bridge behind, and then I'm going to try to get this bridge off now. The irony is I have a garage full of decent tools, but they are not here, they're at my garage, so I'm using what I've got. Now it's important, I've learned in the past through hard lessons that when you're taking these screws out, it's always best not to try to just force it and use whatever screwdriver you have. Try to find the one that is the best fit for it, because what will end up happening is you'll round it or it'll get distorted. In fact, the first Yamaha guitar I ever had, about 20 years ago, that's exactly what happened, and I managed to completely knacker it up by basically like tune up the screws. So let's see if we can get this out. We've got these screws out at the back, but I think there's more to it because it doesn't want to come out. Taking the screws out here, and I think this has just been held in, even though I undid the springs in the back. I think that's being held in by them, just by their presence. You can see now here this is loose because it's snapped, and I have tried to undo this one here, but I think I'm going to get a bit of WD-40 on that, because when I tried to turn it, it didn't feel like it wanted to turn, and I've got a funny feeling if I turn it, it's going to snap, and then I'll be in the same situation with the other one, and I don't know what it's going to take to fix that yet. So if I can avoid snapping the other one, then I will, but if it has to be snapped, then it has to be snapped to come off. So fingers crossed. Well, the WD-40 did its trick again, because the screw is now loose, or nut should I say. So can I get that off? Not a lot of thread in it. The hidden screws. That'll be why it won't come off. I'm going to take this sort of, I don't know what you call it, assembly for the tremolo out. One thing I did notice was, which is quite cool, there's actually little bearings in there. A lesser company would have just made that as a kind of straight metal fit. It would have worn out, but it's interesting to see that they actually put proper bearings in. They're actually very similar to the ones that would go in like a skateboard or a scooter wheel. Is the bridge ready to come out? Hopefully. Notice the marked round it with a felt tip pen. That's the sort of felt tip pen that kids use, and it's designed to be wiped off their faces and they can like eat them and stuff like that, so that'll just wipe off. But having done some stuff with cars in the past, I know it's sometimes better to, when you're taking things off, mark it if you can, because you want it to go back exactly where it went in, not sort of approximately where it went in. So hopefully that will help. It turned out that it had actually snapped off the end, so it's impossible to put the dome nut on. So I bought these 5mm inserts, sorry, M5 inserts. Managed to cut that off there. So anyway, these are the grub screws that I bought to go in. Now they're just held in place with sort of thread sealing Loctite, so that stops them spinning. So it's basically like super glue, and I measured them all to the original heights. So hopefully everything should be fine, and it will be as per the original specification. That's the bridge all back together again. I managed to free off these rollers, they were completely seized. So just put WD-40 in them and worked them free while I had this apart to clean it. This worked out quite well here. The thread locker basically has held it in place, so it's not going to move, so it's set at the right height. I've got a washer under there which is the same height as the washer, or the built-in washer to the original screw. And I bought these like stainless dome nuts that replicate the sort of original ones. So it just looks exactly the same, and because it's stainless it'll never rust or anything like that. So just try to put the rest of it back together again. So that's the guitar back together again. Got the new strings on it. It's a bit of a pain when you first put the strings on because it's got a floating tremolo, so every time you tune it up it moves the tremolo and puts it back out of tune again. So you have to tune it like 30 times. That's an exaggeration, but if you tune it inside out it does help. So we've got there now. Hopefully unseizing these rollers on the bridge will help to keep it in tune, because I imagine if you did use the tremolo when they were seized, it's probably going to drop out of tune. So that's all been fixed and this is all back together again and it cleaned up really nicely. The condition of the guitar is pretty good for the age, I would say. There's like a dent up here where your strap goes on, and there's a couple of little dinks in it, but other than that it's pretty good. The colour is, I think it's like candy apple red from what I understand with these guitars. You know, they made them from the 2000s. It was inspired by a guitar I think Yamaha made in the 60s. There's other models that weren't exported that were sort of higher spec, but this was the sort of the main one that we got in the UK, and then I think they exported to other markets. It does seem quite nicely put together. The way that it plays, I would say, is very much like a Strat. I mean, I had that candy apple red HSS Strat before, earlier on, and it plays just like that. There's nothing unusual about the way they play. But they have got an unusual sound, thanks to these kind of weird pickup setup and this kind of unusual bridge. Everything seems to work on it. You can, the pickup selectors work, volume works, there's no noise or anything like that. Generally it seems to be in really good condition, and all the better for being cleaned up and having a set of strings on it. So yeah, it's going to be up for sale in my reverb shop now, so if you're interested in it, then go and have a look, and hopefully it can go off to a new home.